We've now finished the second section of our program on preparing for success after prison, which means we're moving into the final section. And I wrote a brief little, outline on the third section that I want to read to you, and then I'll come back and we'll just have a little discussion about that. So let me turn to the right screen, and I'm going to start reading about section 3. So in this third section of preparing for success after prison, we invite participants to join our coalition for reforms that would expand the concept of earning freedom by incentivizing excellence. In section 1, the first 5 hours of our Preparing for Success After Prison course, we provided the construct for living a values-based, goal-oriented life. In section 2, we endeavored to show a practical application for the next 10 hours of the course. I used the Straight A Guide as a compass to prepare for success upon release, and I know that you can do the same. In section 3, which we're about to start, we offer an additional 15 exercises on personal development. These final 15 lessons involve more writing and critical thinking. Participants should use critical thinking to memorialize their personal growth and their preparations for success. Now, the purpose. Throughout this course, I have written that I would offer guidance that I learned from leaders. Those leaders taught me the importance of lifelong learning. If we are always preparing, we're living more intentionally. We must identify strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. I pledge transparency and would never ask anyone to do anything I am not doing. Subsequent lessons will show how I am still using these strategies today. Since completing my prison term in August of 2013, working toward prison reform and sentence reform has been like a ministry for me. Every day, I advocate for reforms that include expansion of incentives that would allow all people in prison to earn higher levels of liberty through merit and reconciliation, access to work release for people in federal prison who qualify, meaningful access to commutations and compassionate release, reinstatement of the U.S. Parole Commission. To succeed with such efforts, I need help from people in prison. When more people show that they are building release plans and using those plans to guide their preparations for success, we become more successful at persuading administrators, business leaders, and citizens on the need to expand the use of incentives in prison. We invite participants to subscribe to our newsletter. If you haven't done so already, consider becoming a part of our community. That is our mailing address at Prison Professors Talent, 32565 Golden Lantern Street, B-1026 in sunny Dana Point, California, 92629. But we also invite you to send an email, if you've got access to that service, to interns@prisonprofessorstalent.com. Subject line, requesting a scholarship. Now, before I get into reading lesson number 16, let me just give a little bit more commentary. You see, it's so important for everybody to be thinking very early about how they're going to get out, how they are going to overcome the challenges that complicate life for so many people. Now, if you're looking through some of our other materials, you'll see the interviews I've done with people like Weldon Long. You know, Weldon Long has got a great story because at 19 years old, he made some bad decisions that led to him being arrested for armed robbery. He went to prison. While in prison, he didn't adjust well. By not adjusting well, when he finished his term for armed robbery after several years, he went back to society and couldn't make it. Couldn't find a job. Didn't take long, 6 or 7 months before he was charged again and brought back into the prison system, where he served another few years, got out, same types of challenges, and found himself getting involved in criminal activity, and boom, charged again. And this time, he's facing 10 more years in prison. But something happened. On the third time, his father died. And when his father died, he made a decision that he had to change his life because he just felt humiliated that his father had never known him as anything other than a drug addict and a petty criminal. So he really wanted to change his life, and he did so on that third term in prison. And during that third term in prison, he got an education. He focused on personal development. He focused on preparing for success after release. And that led to him not only getting out and becoming successful, but becoming successful on an extraordinary level. And I hope that you get an opportunity to watch the video that I did with Weldon Long and the video that I did with many other people. They're all available on the Adovo platform, and if you don't have them in your prison, then perhaps you let your reentry coordinator or supervisor of education to reach out to us, and we'll do our best to get you those videos, because we really want to teach people how to succeed in prison. And to succeed in prison, rather prepare for success after prison, you've got to see it, you have got to be in it, your head in the game all the time, and then you got to conquer it. And that's what this lesson's about right now. So let me go ahead and read it. It's a lot shorter than the other ones because it's going to require more work on your part. Theoretically, by going through sections 1 and 2, you now have the skill set to embark upon an ongoing journey of preparing for success upon release. Now let's turn to the lesson. Veni, vidi, vici. Some participants may have heard the Latin phrase, veni, vidi, vici. Scholars attribute that phrase to Julius Caesar, a Roman general and statesman. He lived during the 1st century BCE, before the Common Era. We can translate the phrase into English as follows: veni. This word translates to I came or I arrived. It refers to the act of arriving at a particular place or situation. Vidi. This word means I saw. It represents observing or perceiving something with one's own eyes. Vici. The word vici says I conquered or I overcame. This word signifies achieving victory or triumph over a challenge or opponent. History tells us that Julius Caesar used this phrase when he wrote a letter to the Roman Senate around 47 BCE. He wanted to describe his swift and decisive victory against another king succinctly. Over the following centuries, others have used the veni, vidi, vici phrase to express a concise statement of a successful accomplishment or a display of confidence. I used veni, vidi, vici when drafting the manuscript for Earning Freedom, Conquering a 45-Year Prison Term. The book would become cornerstone content for the career I wanted to build upon release. I aspired to persuade leaders of the need for reforms that would allow people to earn freedom through merit rather than turning calendar pages. Since the book would have to cover multiple decades of confinement, I needed a logical section to engage readers. Veni. The first section of the manuscript shows a young man going in to serve a multi-decade term. Vidi. The penultimate section shows that he saw what he saw and how preparations for success led to an effective release plan that focused on results rather than the process of serving time. Vici. The final section shows how an effective release plan could open opportunities and deliver a higher potential for people who return to society. As I learned from the life story of Frederick Douglass, I started with a plan. A book or series of books would help me tell the story of how preparing for success after prison led to an effective release plan. Writing that book became a priority and a part of an overall plan. With the book, I hoped to open opportunities and persuade citizens that incentives would lead to improved outcomes of America's criminal justice system. The book led to invitations to teach in a university, publishing in peer-reviewed journals, and creating advocacy campaigns to advance the plan's next steps. We would need to collect data to influence people to join a coalition for reform. Collecting data could show how preparing for success upon release improves outcomes. That data would counter opposing voices with a vested interest in repealing laws that encouraged people to work toward milestone credits or earned time credits. We developed resources to hire a social scientist from UCLA, and with her data, she could profile how incentives lead to hope and how that hope leads to more effective release plans, and more effective release plans lead to lower recidivism rates, lower costs, improved cultures, and better outcomes for citizens. To spread the program further, we would need to expand our coalition to include prison administrators, employers, and people in prison. Together, we anticipated that we could build more support for reforms that would include expansion of incentives for all people in prison, access to work release programs, opportunities to pursue compassionate release, furloughs, or sentence and commutations when appropriate. And as a personal development exercise, write responses to the following questions. That's what I'm asking you to do now. I'm asking you to invest in yourself and to really now start mastering these concepts that we have spoken about. So I ask you these questions with the expectation that you're going to spend time to truly think about, well, how are you selling yourself? How are you putting yourself in a position to position yourself for success? And these questions that I'm asking are really, there's no right answer, no wrong answer. But to the extent that you start building your own profile, your own story of how you recalibrated through prison, you are going to be stronger. So here's the questions for this exercise. What does the phrase "seek first to understand, then to be understood" mean to you? Now, you can write as little as you want, but the more you think about it, the more you develop your critical thinking skills, the better you are going to develop your ability to communicate. And that's going to aid you in your pathway to preparing for success. Here's another question. What did you observe when you came to prison? Here's another question. What thoughts did you have about preparing for higher levels of liberty while you served your sentence? Here's another question. How would you have defined success at the start of your sentence? And finally, what goals did you put in place to advance prospects for success? Now, repeatedly, I've told you, I never ask anybody to do anything that I didn't do in prison and that I'm not still doing today. And I'll have you look at this. I wish there were some way that I could show you what today's date is. I don't have anything. Let's see. We're gonna be creative. Okay. So I'm gonna go back to my other screen. So you can see I'm sharing my screen right now. This shows on Google Calendar that today is Thursday, July the 6th. And if I go to the prisonprofessorstalent.com website and I go to my profile, which I'm using as a model to kind of show people how to document their story, you will see that down here in the journal section, I've been journaling every day since the first day of this month when I started to launch this website. So there's July the 1st, July the 2nd, July the 3rd, July the 6th. And I'm always trying to explain to people in prison why it's so important to live methodically, to show what you see, to talk about what you're going to do, and then to build a plan that will help you advance your pathway to success. Not as I define success, but as you define success. And the sooner you start doing that, the better off you are going to be. I hope you're finding these lessons helpful. All the future lessons of this course, and this is number 16, so we're going to move on to number 17 next, but they are going to be challenging you with applying what we've learned in the first two sections of this course, and I hope that you are using it to prepare for success upon release. Be well. I'm Michael Santos, and on behalf of our entire team at Prison Professors, I want to say thank you to Adovo. Thank you to the prison systems that allow us to come inside and communicate with you, because we need you, we believe in you, and we're going to keep fighting to bring reforms that will help bring more incentives and bring more people home, but more importantly, help more people succeed upon release. Be well. Thanks.